I now give the floor to the representative of Guatemala to introduce the statement of the Minister.
Señor Presidente.
Mr. President, Excellencies, colleagues, I have the honour at this general debate of the 75th session of the General Assembly of the United Nations to introduce the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Pedro Brolo. He will address you representing the government of Guatemala. It is a great honour to, at this general debate of the 75th session of the General Assembly of the United Nations, address you as for the first time as the Minister for Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Guatemala. On behalf of President Alejandro Yamatei, my country underscores the relevance of the central theme of our deliberations and acknowledges the importance of the focus on collective commitment to multilateralism facing COVID-19 through effective collective action. I echo previous speakers in expressing condolences to the families of those that have lost loved ones as a result of the devastation wrought by COVID-19. I hail all of the healthcare professionals and support personnel that work every day and have been doing for several months now. They are heroes and heroines that are fighting this crisis on the front line and have done so with bravery and commitment. This juncture has called upon us to urgently develop comprehensive responses. Doing so has involved us all working together as the government, civil society, international cooperation and multilateral organisations. We've had to work together to leverage resources and capacity to tackle this pandemic. We've sought to preserve healthcare, security and the right to food of all of our inhabitants. The government of Guatemala acknowledges that no one will be safe until everyone is safe. In light of this conviction, I wish to state that my country is interested in having immediate and fair access to vaccines. We wish to make patently clear that we are ready and willing to work to assist the logistics and distribution of the vaccine across countries of the region, particularly in Central America. We know that joining forces we can find a solution to this virus, and we know that, as we always have done, we will count on global solidarity. We are grateful for the support which the international system, its agencies, as well as international actors and friend countries have provided to us in the face of this COVID-19 crisis. Mr. President, faced with the challenges of COVID-19, Guatemala, despite having declared a state of calamity, having taken preventive healthcare measures, was heavily affected. And this also despite the fact that we'd established a specific commission for the prevention of coronavirus. As I said, we were dealt a heavy blow. Nevertheless, this has not impeded our work on the development of our country. The areas most heavily affected by COVID-19 have been healthcare, the economy and food insecurity. For this reason, we have implemented plans to expedite the pace of social and economic recovery in our country, and we've emphasised the importance of reaching the most vulnerable. Regarding healthcare, we have a neglected system, one which has been overlooked for many years, and moreover, we're now facing a pandemic. This has meant that since the very first day of the pandemic, we had to develop aggressive plans to restore our health system. We have renovated existing hospitals and established 5 more in record times located across the country. We've increased the number of beds available to the tune of some 2,000 in recent months, and we've also provided resources and capacity to provide timely medical care to the Guatemalan people. I wish to pay a tribute to the invaluable support that we've received from multilateral cooperation and from friend countries who have prioritised the provision of assistance to the Ministry of Public Health and Social Welfare. In the economic field, we enacted the Economic Rescue Law, which created the Family Bond Fund. This is a measure of social compensation designed to mitigate the economic crisis across national territory. Moreover, we created the Labour Protection Bonus. This bonus supports businesses that are encountering economic problems. It helps them to keep their personnel employed and provides them with the option of furloughing their staff during the emergency. These furloughed staff are provided with economic support for 3 consecutive months along with the businesses that employ them. And this means that income is guaranteed. In terms of micro, small and medium-sized businesses, we're providing soft loans to resolve cash flow problems and avoid business closures. In terms of food programme, we established the Food Support and COVID-19 Prevention Programme. This involved the provision of a basic food basket to families, taking into account cultural specificities. This basket was given to vulnerable families and families in at-risk areas. And this pandemic, in more general terms, exacerbated already challenging problems, namely malnutrition. We are at a national level about to embark upon a great national crusade for nutrition. This is one of the most important plans my government has developed. The aim of this initiative is to improve the nutritional status of Guatemalan families. It emphasizes the most excluded and poorest regions of our societies. It adopts a comprehensive approach which looks to tackle the multifaceted nature of the nutrition problems. We are submitting our candidacy to be a member of the Executive Board of the World Food Programme for 2021-2023. We are sure that on this board we will successfully contribute to the promotion of food security, sustainable agriculture, the eradication of hunger and malnutrition. These are all pivotal challenges for our region. Moreover, in terms of the respect and promotion of human rights, we are currently restructuring our ministries of state and redistributing functions among them, and this in order to ensure firm compliance with national peace accords on firm and lasting peace, human rights and social conflict. We're ensuring that our ministries can work efficiently, responsibly and focus on its priorities. We have rigorously upheld our international commitments in these fields. We've continued to provide adequate follow-up to our commitments. We've submitted the necessary reports and we've adhered to recommendations emanating from human rights mechanisms both within the United Nations system and the Inter-American system. Ladies and gentlemen, Guatemala is convinced that the United Nations work is vital to ensure lasting peace, the protection of human rights and the promotion of development in such a way as to serve the most vulnerable among us. In light of this conviction, I wish to underscore a number of points. Today, migrants account for vast swathes of the population. They continue to suffer abuse, humiliation and discrimination which is entirely unjustified, and this on the basis of their origins and nothing else. 2 years ago, Guatemala, together with other friendly states, launched the initiative of the International Day of Family Remittances. It is celebrated on the 16th of June and recalls the efforts migrants make far from home to help their country and their families. Owing to our geographical location, we are now a country of origin, transit, destination and return. We are deeply committed to the respect of the human rights of migrants. Particularly at this juncture, as we face the pandemic, we urge the international community to avoid the criminalization of migrants, because their contribution to communities is vital for those communities' development. Through United Nations agencies, we pinpoint opportunities to tackle challenges in this area. We have established an agreement with the United Nations Agency for Refugees, as well as a commitment with the IOM and UNICEF. This joint commitment will see us establish a viable edifice for dialogue and the exchange of ideas in such a way as to better help returned migrants. This current juncture gives us lessons to learn. We've learned some of these lessons, and as such we have improved our health protocols when it comes to the migrant population. We have upheld our obligation to welcome our compatriots and to welcome them back home and to avoid the spread of the pandemic. We continue to bear witness to the way in which hatred, racism, discrimination, radicalization, and its harmful consequences, such as terrorism, continue to claim innocent lives. Guatemala is a peace-loving nation, and as such will always encourage political dialogue to avoid any escalation of violence and as a means to search for peaceful solutions to conflicts in full adherence to international law. We must always use constructive diplomacy to renew the purposes of the United Nations, and in order to take effective measures to prevent and eliminate threats to peace and thwart attacks on or breaches of the peace, Guatemala appeals to the Security Council of the United Nations to act in line with its authority, including where the right of the veto is concerned, in order to avoid the exacerbation of international crises. In this vein, Guatemala supports the Franco-Mexican initiative to limit the use of the veto in cases of mass atrocities. Consequently, it is vital that we continue the efforts to reform the Security Council if these goals are to be achieved. United Nations reform remains of utmost importance. I cannot emphasize this issue enough. We must remodel the system and promote better coordination across it. We must work together so that our organization is less bureaucratic. The organization's toil must have a direct impact on those most in need. The organization must invest in development with the human resources it already has at its disposal. We know that reforms are underway in the Secretariat. However, the reform that the United Nations requires remains as yet incomplete, and the lack of trust in multilateralism is proof of this. As a country, we wish to demonstrate to our people that general debates and multilateral meetings are not empty words. We're not solely focused on pretty rhetoric, but in these meetings we're expressing our firm desire that we must focus our efforts on helping people directly and tangibly. We have the human resources we need to work. We don't need the United Nations to focus on administrative issues or the provision of technical assistance. We trust that we're working towards the same goal, and that is building walls of prosperity, and we trust that at times of crisis we'll work to reactivate development, stimulate the economy and produce jobs. We trust that we will work to improve the living conditions of our people. We must work to strengthen a model which allows us to move from simple cooperation with countries to investment in them. This model will see countries like our own able to build its own skills and develop its own capacity to reduce the gaps challenging our development. Now more than ever before, we are now today called upon to undertake wholesale transformations of our organizations. It is for this reason we must entirely recast the work of this organization. Among the threats hovering above our world, the use of nuclear weapons is one of the greatest threats to the existence of humankind. Guatemala reiterates the fact it is in favor of complete, irreversible and transparent nuclear disarmament. According to an established time frame, we condemn any nuclear test or the threat of use of force with such weapons. Such acts risk the very survival of human life on Earth. The Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons will soon enter into force, and that is a highly pertinent milestone in this area. Mr. President, all of the actions which global leadership decides to take will have an undoubtable impact on the Sustainable Development Goals. Countries must shoulder their responsibilities for their own development, but we must all be moving along a common path. Guatemala will be part of the Economic and Social Council this year under the theme Inclusive Development for All. Our election to the Council is a demonstration of our country's commitment to the fulfillment of Agenda 2030. In light of this position, we will increase mechanisms to tackle the devastating effects of climate change. This scourge does not only disproportionately affect developing countries, but is a crisis which must be tackled in a timely fashion. The lockdown that many of us have been subject to recently was a time of repose a period of respite for our common house, planet Earth. Climate change is a reality to which we cannot close our eyes. We must work to breathe new life into our ecosystems, keep clean sources of water, and we must not allow pollution to put excessive pressure on our resources. We must and indeed will increase the participation of indigenous people in all areas of life. We must take into account that they have traditions dating back thousands of years and ancestral knowledge that are crucial to sustainable development. We'll also cooperate with persons with disabilities because they're able to triumph in the face of adversity and are an example to us all. They are people with voices that need to be heard. Today, before this Assembly, I wish to reiterate my country's commitment to find a lasting resolution before the International Court of Justice to the territorial, insular and maritime dispute that we have with Belize. This is a country with whom we hope to have friendly relations and an ongoing dialogue in place to peacefully resolve common problems. We are convinced that resolving this dispute will bring economic, social and political benefits to both states. But first and foremost, it will allow adjacent areas to develop fully. We reaffirm our commitment as a state to democracy and the full respect of international law. On behalf of my country, today, more now than ever before, I express my commitment to the United Nations on its 75th birthday and my commitment to multilateralism, peace, the respect of human rights and sustainable development for current and future generations. Let us together build more inclusive nations, promoting prosperity and respect for our planet Earth. Guatemala will stop at nothing. Thank you.
On behalf of the General Assembly, I wish to thank the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Guatemala for the statement that he has just made.